Is this the best tax residency in the world for nomads? Hey, I'm Alex from Hispanic Nomad, and today I had a conversation with Joey Langerbrunner, who is the person responsible for the Prospera tax residency program. This is one of the most innovative programs in the world. It can be done fully remotely, allows you to pay a really small flat fee on all your worldwide taxes. And yeah, it's one of the programs that's taking the nomad world by storm. So when he approached me to talk about this project, I thought I would just bring him in to the show and so he can explain to you guys how everything works and if this is interesting for you. So I hope you enjoy the show and see you in the comments.
Hey, thanks, man. So my name is Joey Langerbrunner. I'm the founder of Nomad Layer. We started a year ago when we started to work with the government of Prospera. For any listeners who do not know what Prospera is a special economic zone on the island of Rotan, which is off the coast of Honduras, in Central America.
Mhm.
So essentially, what the special economic zone can do is that it essentially has various sovereign powers. And me, in my background, I originally come from like the crypto and tech world. I got into the investment migration world maybe 5, 6 years ago. And what I like to do is that I basically like to work in the policy section and work with various governments to start programs. So essentially, I came to the government of Prospera, and what I suggested to them, because they have the power to tax their own residents any way they seem fit, essentially what I wanted to do is start the first remote tax residency program.
Mhm. And oh, sorry, I got distracted by the AI talking here. Nice. So, how does that work? So, I thought, and I'm not super familiar with the program, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, of course. So, I thought you had to negotiate with Honduras itself to create an economic special zone, but from what you're telling me, that was already in place before you guys started.
Right, right. So the Prospera started, I believe, in 2019 under the Rosette
Mhm.
law. So I have a lot of good friends, who've been working on the project for a long time. I'm actually currently here in Prospera. So since the ZA was already implemented, and the guys from Prospera started to actually build real infrastructure, real buildings, real community. Like there's a golf course here. There is tons of villas. We got a luxury condo building. We got restaurants, we got coffee shops, we got convenience stores. So it's like kind of like everything you need all in one type place. But essentially, under the ZA laws, the government of Honduras gives or grants certain powers. So so they don't have full sovereignty. So Prosper is not a country by any
Mhm.
means. They have no intention to do so, but essentially they have certain things that they can do. And me being the nerd I am, essentially I've read through their laws, especially their tax laws, and saw that they had the power to do this. And then essentially gave them the idea, say, hey, can we do this remote tax residency program? They liked the idea, and then I was able to actually get the law passed late last year.
Nice. Well, congratulations on the effort, and I can only imagine all the bureaucracy you had to go through with this. So that sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
So
thank
when
you.
you say remote tax residency, what does that mean exactly? Does it mean that you can get tax residency there without stepping into the country, or what would be the idea?
Yeah, basically what Nomad Layer created was the first remote tax residency program designed for the modern nomad. I know you work with a lot of nomads,
Hmm.
and a nomad as myself, we basically do everything on like digital. So I wanted to essentially create, kind of like a digital friendly way to get a tax residency program. So if you're a digital nomad and you're leaving Spain or you're leaving the UK, you're leaving Canada. For Americans, it's probably not the best option. But for anyone else, sometimes you're caught in limbo for maybe a year or two, and you're not really sure where you should get tax residency. You might not even know you need to get tax residency. So basically, what we created was the first tax residency as a service program. So envision this: you could be chilling in the pool in your villa in Bali, right? And you can just order a tax residency certificate. We make it that simple.
That's insane. So you don't even have to step foot into Honduras at any point, or
Not initially. So here's the way the process goes. So basically, we did a $5,000 lump sum,
Hmm.
zero fees, but so basically you pay this tax. What we give to you included, or essentially we give you something back for your tax dollars, right? Which a lot of
Hmm.
people, are always a little upset about that, but we do give something back. We give you a residency permit in Prospera, not Honduras, in Prospera. Okay.
Hmm.
Then we get you a bank, which is 1% territorial tax. So as long as that company is not making money in Prospera, it's essentially zero. Okay.
Hmm.
We help you get a personal bank account and we help you get a bank account for your business. And then we also help you get insurance for personal. So when you're here in the zone, if unfortunately you get into an accident or something like that, the insurance will cover you.
Hmm.
So we kind of give all that, and then we also help you get a proof of address as well, and that will all be done completely remote.
Nice. All right. Yeah, a couple questions on that front. I should probably write this down so I don't forget anything, but because there's so much to unpack with this program. Um, all right. So you said that you get, let's say, a residency permit in Prospera, not Honduras. All right. That seems like an important
Correct.
distinction. So how does that work? Like, can
Right.
you use that to get into Honduras with your passport, or is that independent? Or
Yeah. Yeah. So your original question is, do we have to go to the country or not? So
right.
especially for almost every single other program out there, if it's Paraguay or Cyprus or the UAE, you do have to visit for a certain period of time, right?
Hmm.
To get things at least initially set up. So what we do, it's very important to actually visit the country that you have legal status in,
Hmm.
right? Which is
Right.
important. So when I designed the law, I put in place essentially a requirement where you visit 7 days, at least
Hmm.
7 days. So the way that this works is that as soon as you get approved for your tax residency, oh well, also you do get a tax residency certificate. I
Hmm.
just forget to say that,
Right.
which is signed and stamped by the Honduran government. So
Hmm.
it's legally a Honduran tax residency certificate issued by the government of Prospera.
Okay.
But anyways, as soon as you get approved, you have 12 months after that to come to Prospera and hang out for 7 days.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
basically, we give you that flexible option. So if you're ready a digital nomad and you're like, hey, I'm in Bali right now, but in 4 months from now, I'm gonna head to
Yeah, South
Mexico and
America
go
or
to right, right. You just pop over, whenever it's convenient for you. And also another reason why I wanted to do this outside of, we want as much substance as possible to show to your home country. We're staying here, we got a certificate, we got insurance, we got an address, we got a company, we got a bank account, all those kind of stuff, to build
hmm
substance here in Honduras. Another thing that is important to a lot of digital nomads and what digital nomads have issues with is sometimes when you're traveling around, you are a professional traveler.
hmm
Sometimes it can be a little bit lonely, right?
right. Hmm.
Like it can be a little bit lonely. So what we want to do is basically create a community for digital nomads here in Prospera.
Hmm.
So you have a community that you're hanging out with. So we'll have a Discord channel or a Telegram that we're gonna eventually set up where people can kind of chat. Talk about digital nomad stuff, talk about Prospera, and really form that community here in Prospera, so they feel a little less alone, that they feel like they have a home somewhere, because it's important to have roots somewhere,
Hmm.
and we want those roots to be here in Prospera. But it's kind of like you only have to be here for 7 days, so
No, I mean,
it's
it makes a lot of
it's flexible.
sense. Yeah, I would say the best digital nomad hotspots in the world are those who are able to attract people and make them stay for a little longer. And like community is
Right,
a big part of that. Bali, for example, Paraguay is a big one right
right,
now. Yeah, so I mean,
sure,
I've been seeing more and more events set in Prospera. I work with, what's her name? Never mind. So there's like a bunch of companies that do in-person events for nomads, and like they have plans on launching a couple of them in Prospera this year. I'm actually looking forward to going there. And I know you have like Bitcoin conferences as well, right? And crypto stuff, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
yeah. Yeah, no. So probably you'd say like the two biggest niches right now, and you can always start your own niche here, right? It's definitely on the crypto side. So like there's like a lot of crypto and tech people here, AI stuff going on, and there's a lot of like biotech and longevity companies,
Mhm.
here as well. So which is very interesting when you form a community to see what attracts. And once you start having a community like in the crypto world or the longevity and biotech world, those really start building. But if you're not like really into crypto or tech or longevity or biotech, which you should totally be in both, by the
Mhm.
way, like you want your crypto, you want your tech, you want your, you want to live a healthy life, stuff like that. But if there's a niche here, like a community that you want to start here, it's still
Mhm.
kind of early here in Prospera.
Right.
Like Prospera has been around for quite a long time now, actually. But if you want to create a new community, like let's say I want to create just a normal digital nomad community, and I want to leave that, and I want to start opportunities there, or I want to come here and start a business, or come here and do events and bring people to come here and do their 7 days and do little retreats and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like nomad companies that actually do that already. So there's so much opportunity here, to build stuff here.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking a little bit at the island and what you can do there, and it's basically like a Caribbean island, right? So
Yeah.
beautiful ocean, jungles, I guess. What kind of things do people do there? Like, what is there to do in Prospera at the moment?
I would say snorkeling and scuba diving are probably the biggest things they do here. They have one of the best diving and reefs here. So Rotan, for me, coming from the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
it was a very popular place for when you go on this cruise ship. So it's kind of like a standard
Right.
spot to
Mm-hmm.
stop. So there's a lot of American and Canadian tourists that come here. But outside of that, there's great jungles. Hiking is decent. There's tons of resorts here. I would say boating is great. A few days ago, we went swimming with sharks, and there was some stingrays, that we had to be, be a little
Mm-hmm.
bit careful about. But there's so much to do on the island, and what's so unique about Roatan is that there is this place called the Bitcoin Center
Mm-hmm.
uh, here in Prospera, and if you go onto the top level, you can actually see both sides of the island. Because if you look at Rotan on a map, it's actually very, very skinny, but very, very long. So if you want
Mm-hmm.
to drive from one side to the other side, it can literally take hours. But if you're going from one side of the island to the other side of the island, the narrow part, maybe, maybe 20 minutes,
All
maybe
right.
25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very skinny. So it has an interesting, vibe and location
Mm-hmm.
and things like that.
Sounds a little bit like what Bali was maybe 20 years ago, or like some of the islands
Right.
on Thailand or the Philippines. Not
Yeah.
super known yet, or not super developed maybe, but growing and with a lot of opportunity. And I think in this world, like right now with everything that's going on in the world, if you just set up legal structure in place that attracts entrepreneurs, nomads, and so on, like it's gonna grow for sure. I've been hearing about Prospera for a couple of years now, actually, but it's only been in the last year where it's really been popping off on my feed and YouTube and everything. So looks like you're doing something right for sure.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, Prospera is probably one of the best communities I've ever been. Personally for me, I'm thinking about maybe even buying a place
Hmm.
here and whatnot. So there's just so much opportunity to build here. And really, when you are a digital nomad, you're seeking freedom, you're seeking sovereignty in your life. And
Hmm.
the cool thing with being in a special economic zone is that it is essentially a place where there is a lot of sovereignty, there is a lot of freedom because
Hmm.
you're still in Honduras, so you still have to follow, let's say, like the criminal code in Honduras. So, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but there's a lot of freedoms that you have to build, starting your businesses, things like that. So from that perspective, it's actually a really cool environment to be in.
Okay. So yeah, you already mentioned like what kind of people it attracts. So I would say like crypto people, people on biotech. I know like some treatments are only legal in Honduras. Is that right? Like one of the first times I heard about Prospera was when talking about some experimental treatment for like anti-aging and stuff like that. I don't know if that's still a reality or.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of people who are trying to study on how to, like, let's say, live longer
Mhm.
or really just to be healthier. I mean, at the end of the day, and have let's say, the freedom to study
Hmm.
that in a jurisdiction that is friendly. So like there's still like regulation in place, so you can't do anything crazy,
Right.
right? But they still have like that freedom to, like let's say experiment a little bit, push the limits a little bit, and really push, let's say, human intellect, um,
Hmm.
sorry, intellect a little bit further, being in a free place like this. So when you're in such a free place, and you're trying to look for freedom,
Hmm.
you feel very comfortable here, and it feels very much like home.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Major countries like the US and obviously Europe, they have too much regulation in most cases. I mean, the US is way less bad than Europe in that
Right.
sense, but still, like I know in some fields, like there's a lot of regulation and you have to go through a lot of red tape to be able to innovate or study or like try something new. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think places like Prospera will be great for that type of people, right? Like innovators, those who want to experiment, try something new, and advance human knowledge. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I have a couple of questions. I mean, you've been bringing up some topics. You said you're thinking of investing on the island. How does it look like? Is real estate cheap there? Are there a lot of new developments?
Yeah, so there's a lot of new developments that are coming soon.
Mhm.
So I know maybe three areas where they're going to start building some stuff here. They do have this tower called the Duna Tower, which I'm currently staying at, where they have apartments on the cheaper side. And then they also have this resort area called Pristine Bay,
Mhm.
uh, where you can buy, let's say, larger villas that are a little bit more expensive.
Mhm.
Could be, I mean, I don't know exact cost, but could be closer to the 800,000
Okay.
area. But if you want to buy just like a studio apartment or something like that, you can probably get it maybe 150 or 200 or something like that, maybe even cheaper.
Mhm.
Um, but there's not a lot of units left. But I think it's great to invest into a place that is growing and developing, and where you can really create your own community and your own niches.
Okay. So it sounds like it wouldn't be a place for lower income people, right? From what you're telling me, so it's more like mid or high income nomads, right? From
Well, no, so we really, yeah, I mean, so yes, like for example, even if I wanted to rent a place here,
Mhm.
it's it's pretty affordable. And if you're really on a budget, there is also a hostel here where I think they charge maybe 23 bucks a day,
Okay.
So you can spend 23 bucks a day, you can spend $100 a day, maybe a few $100 a day, depending on what you want. So
Mhm.
so all the options are here.
All right. Nice. So
Absolutely.
there's like a nice range of options for everyone. Okay.
Yep.
One thing I get asked a lot about, so I work mainly with Paraguay for tax residencies, and one of the main
Yeah.
disadvantages
Yeah,
of
Paraguay is
Paraguay,
great.
yeah, Paraguay is fantastic. I really like it. It does have a very big disadvantage, though, which is that it doesn't have a double taxation treaty with a lot of countries. I think it only has one with Spain and like two more countries. But from what you're telling me, so Honduras will give you tax residency certificate. Is that valid in other countries? Like, does it have treaties with other countries, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot from clients.
Hmm.
So I'm going to give you the fast answer, and then I'm going to give you the longer answer, and
Hmm.
and
Perfect.
you know, and I'm sure you know about this. So Honduras doesn't really have any double taxation treaties.
Okay.
So I want to be very clear and transparent about that.
Hmm.
What's important on our end, and so when you sign up
Hmm.
for the Prospera lump sum tax regime, we have a section on the application basically where you check to basically say that you are not a tax resident anywhere else,
Right. Hmm.
right? So this is very, very important. So when people ask, it's like, hey, do we have a double taxation treaty, stuff like that? They're asking the wrong question.
Hmm.
The right question that you or I need to we need to ask our clients is, making sure that they're not a tax resident in Spain anymore, or the Canada or
Hmm.
the UK, right? Like I'm sure you deal with
Yeah. Yeah.
clients like
100%.
that all the
100%.
time,
Hmm.
right? So people kind of get that question confused. Now, obviously, to be transparent, I'm not a licensed tax attorney in
Hmm.
Spain or the UK or Canada or anything like that. So none of this is tax or legal advice
Hmm.
in any jurisdiction. I'll be very clear about that. Um, so if they want to really make sure they want to talk to a licensed tax attorney in their home country to make sure that they are completely out of that system. But I would say the easy thing to do is to just cut all ties possible. So if you're a resident in Spain and you're paying taxes in Spain, close your company, remove all your bank accounts, get rid of your lease. You know, if your girlfriend's in Spain, leave her there or bring her, you know, cut all ties.
Right.
And here in Prospera, that's why we help you get the proof of address. We'll help you get you a bank account. And also, I want to put a lot of emphasis on this is the fact that you're actually paying tax here.
Yeah, yeah, it's not, that's a very good point. It's not zero; it's like a small sum, yearly sum, but that's already something. So, like your home country will have even less reason to say like, "Hey, you're not paying anywhere." So, yeah. No, I got. I mean, I think that's a fantastic answer. Thank you so much for the transparency. I just had a guy the other day, Spanish guy, and he was a digital nomad. He was like traveling around the whole year, and he told me that Spain had taxed him on the last 5 years because he was not a resident anywhere else. Even if he had spent like no days whatsoever in Spain, he had nothing there, like no lease, no bank accounts, nothing. So you still need a tax residency somewhere else, even if you're not living in your high tax country, because they will come after you. Like they are desperate for money. So
right. Right. Yep. Exactly. So that's why I want to make sure that they pay a little bit something because depending on the country, they'll actually want you to pay something somewhere. So especially in Sweden, where they'll actually follow you for 3 years to make sure you're paying tax somewhere. You know, in Spain and Portugal are kind of like that. From my understanding, Mexico is 3 years, but you know, I don't know about enforcement.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and there's like we can't know about every country in the world, but they're all kind of similar. Like all high tax countries, they will just, you know, they want to make sure that you actually left and you're not just gaming the system. So,
right. And so that's why we think it's also important that you pay tax somewhere and might as well pay it here. And also, Prospera does accept Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies for tax as well.
You said it does accept it or it doesn't?
It does.
It does. Okay, nice. That's very interesting. Good. So it is pretty modern, all things considered. Like I was going to ask you, for example, so you were talking about bank accounts. Is that on like a Honduras bank? What kind of currencies do they accept? How?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we have connections to various banks. So for example, if you go to Prospera's website, the two banks you'll see on there is Slash and OneSafe. There is also a private bank out in Oman that I have connections with for like, let's say, high net worth individuals. And then also just recently, there's another bank that opened up called the Network Bank. And so what's great about them is that they basically integrated their systems with Prospera directly. So when you're approved to be a resident here in Prospera, because you do have to go through a basic KYC process, and when you get onboarded, it's basically equivalent to if you're setting up a Coinbase account. You know, it's pretty intuitive. So they actually make it pretty streamlined, and they just did that a few days ago. So what's cool about that is that there's always more options coming here. You know, so the options are limited, but there's always getting more, and it's always getting better. And with the network bank coming in, they make it pretty easy. A lot of my friends who have companies here, they've been using Slash or OneSafe. You can use PayPal. Now, to be also transparent, here in Honduras, there is no Revolut, there is no Wise, right? So you'll just have to use PayPal, for a lot of things. But at the end of the day, it's a legal structure. You get a legal bank account, and you're all good to go. Now, on the so that's for company. On the personal side, you can come here and you could get a personal bank account at Banco Atlantica here on the island of Roatan. And when they ask where your residency is, just tell them that you're a resident in Prospera.
Nice. Okay. And can you use the residency permit to open bank accounts, let's say in Panama or like Georgia or? So yeah, I'm just trying to. So for example, I don't know if you've heard of the Palau e-residency, which is like also pretty famous. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it for sure. And people just use that to open bank accounts or crypto exchanges or brokerage accounts. Is it similar in this case?
No, not necessarily. So if you want to open a personal account in Panama, then you typically, they're going to ask you for a proof of address and stuff like that. And we'll help you. There's, various ways that you can get proof of address.
Hmm.
Like you can rent a place here. We have like remote options that we're, so working on, or you can
Hmm.
come here and buy something. So there's, so really for personal wise, you'll have to show your proof of address. For company wise, it's more important that you show articles of incorporation.
Hmm.
Um, and, and of course, we'll give you like a registered agent's address here and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Now, but we still have relations with certain banks. And so we'll essentially say, hey, set up an account here for your business. For personal, it's a little bit more flexible.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, but it sounds like you help each person like individually, so it's not like a package. Like you actually help them go through the whole process, open their accounts for them, and so on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to some degree, when it comes to like, let's say, opening up an account for them,
Hmm.
we'll tell them to say, hey,
Yeah, this is what you need to
you
do,
know,
and this is where you have to go, and yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we can't necessarily directly open up the bank account for
Yeah, yeah,
them,
of
but
course.
we
No,
can
I
talk
meant
to the
like
bank and
you
set the
help them
process.
with the process. It's not like you go. Yeah, of course. Like they have to go themselves.
Right, right, right.
Okay.
And right now things are a bit manual, but
Hmm.
eventually as this program builds, we're gonna try to build out a more like automated system and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So it's even more
Yeah,
modern,
himself. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Right. So we have that capability. So basically the reason why I say that is because, this program is going to get better and
Of
better.
course.
While a lot of programs, they start off good and then they get worse and worse and worse.
That's a very good point. I mean, there's a law, let's say, in the flag theory world, which is everything gets harder and worse over time. It sounds like in this case it's the opposite, right? Like you guys are just starting out and you're actively working to make it better, which is a very good sign. If anything, I will probably just get it just in case it gets like becomes fantastic, which hopefully it will. And I know you're working hard behind the scenes to get there. Um, but yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I was going to say that too, like it is still pretty early. So it's been, you said like 5 years since Prospera was set up and 1 year since like the actual program was approved. So it's like really, really early.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you define early, I mean, a lot of people been actually living here in Prospera and paying taxes, so they have a normal tax regime. So if
Hmm.
you're actually living here full time, then you actually pay 5%
Hmm.
income tax, and then of course you're working here and your business is here, so then you pay 1%. So
Hmm.
people have already been doing that,
Nice.
getting a tax certificate and showing that back to their home country and having no issues.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's encouraging. Yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time. If you want to wrap this up, do you have any big events planned for the near future? Is there anything that you think people will be interested in coming to Prospera?
So if you guys go to prospera.co, they have tons of events there. There's always events going on. Right now, there's kind of like a month-long event down here called Infinita Games, where they're doing like Olympic size, or like Olympic style games. So like they have like chess, they have like jiu-jitsu, they have like this thing called electric knife fighting, which is
Hmm.
interesting. So, and like the reason I'm bringing all this up is because there's always like cool events going on. So,
Hmm.
I know I'll be down here for the Free Cities Conference in September. Highly recommend you to
Hmm.
come as well. So, but there's always events. There's always cool things going on. There's tons of digital nomads here. There's, yeah, I mean, tons of people that have moved their families here. There's actually a school here for children that is highly rated as
Hmm.
well. If you want a resort life, if you want to play golf, you go snorkeling, everything you need is really here. Infrastructure wise, everything in Prospera is pretty modern. Of
Hmm.
course, there's some parts of the island that are still developing, but as in any place in Latin America,
Right.
kind of deal with that. I will say what is interesting about the island of Roatan really quickly,
Hmm.
little bit of a history lesson is that the island of Roatan as a Caribbean island was actually settled by the British. So you have more of a Afro-Caribbean vibe where like they speak kind of like an English Creole,
Hmm.
but it's part of Honduras, which speaks Spanish and they have their own culture. So here in the island of Roatan, it's kind of a mix between that English Creole Afro-Caribbean style that's very popular, in St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and
Hmm.
Barbuda, and very much the other islands. Then you also have kind of like that Honduran Latin American vibe. So anywhere you go around, you're mostly hearing Spanish, but a lot of the, let's say, towns and street names and areas in the island are actually all in English. So it's kind of a
Hmm.
cool hybrid.
Nice. And do people speak English there mostly, or
A little bit. I would
yeah,
say that Spanish is probably, you definitely need Spanish. If you're actually in Prospera, you'll
hmm,
hear more English. But
right?
of
Because of all the
course,
nomads
you know,
and yeah.
right. But you're still in Latin America, so
Hmm.
so Spanish is going to be the primary language now.
Yeah, I always tell guys that they need to speak Spanish if they wanna profit from the Latin world. I mean, it's a necessity. It's not an option anymore. So
Absolutely. Yep.
cool, man. Yeah, I'll
Exactly.
definitely check out the Free Cities conference. That sounds very interesting. I'll link everything on the description of this video as well, so people can check it out. Just the last question before we finish. So, how can people start? Like, what's the process? How can they approach you and get their tax residency?
So really, like the best way to do that is contact Hispanic Nomad, directly for anything, and then basically they'll loop you into me and I'll work with the client and stuff like that. To get it to get everything done.
Yeah, fair enough. Great. Well, Joey, thank you so much for your time. It sounds like you have really exciting projects coming up with Prospera. I will try to be there this year, hopefully, so we can meet in person.
Absolutely.
Maybe do part two.
I better see you there.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah, that'll be
fantastic.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do like
and
an in-person one.
yeah, that'll be and then I'll maybe even show my face and everything on the video. Who knows? But yeah, man, fantastic stuff going on there in Honduras. I just kept hearing about it, so I just wanted to talk to you directly. And yeah, anyone interested, just reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with Joey, and we'll get you started.
Cool, sounds great.
Yeah. See you, man.